purposes. All right, so here we have our current Rick and Morty assignment. V is running on a separate server. I just have another terminal opened up so that I can work and run my terminal commands. Here you'll see that main.jsx has not been altered. App.jsx has been emptied out, and I just have a general layout. Router is empty. I have some pages and some components, all with empty information. So I'm going to go ahead and start making out my pages. And from there, I'll start implementing a router functionality and all that good stuff. So starting off with pages, I'm going to go ahead and say const about page. It's going to be a function that for now will return a division. And this division will have an h1 saying about, and then it will have a paragraph tag that will just have some lorem ipsum inside of it to fill out my page here. I'm actually going to do the exact same thing for my home page, but I need to make sure that this is export default for about page. All right, I'm going to copy that, bring it over to the home page, and paste that in, and just change this about to home. Great. And then finally, my characters page, which my characters page will be a little different. Just going to go ahead and change that to characters. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this p tag. I'm just going to have a div for all of my characters to be listed. List of characters. I'll place it out in that way. Great. So now I have all three of my pages that have been created. I know I'm going to need some routing functionality, so I'm just going to go ahead and create my navbar real quick. I'm going to have my navbar that will not take in any arguments in this case. All it's going to do is it's going to return a unordered list of an li, which I believe we only need 3 in this case. And for all 3 of these, I'm going to utilize a link tag. This link will be headed to our index, which will be our home. Our next link tag will be heading to our characters. And this will say characters. And then our final link tag will be heading to about, and this will say about. And I'm just going to simply add some inline style here for display flex. I'm going to justify content of space around. All right. So that should give us my navbar here. I'm going to go ahead and export default my navbar. Now I should have my routing capabilities. I'm going to utilize my navbar inside of app.jsx, right inside of this header. All right. The navbar is currently not populating, and I wonder why that is. Let me go ahead and take a look at what my console is saying. It's likely because I haven't implemented.
Don't you have to run dev?
Dev is running on this other server.
Oh, sorry.
Nope, no problem at all. We're the structure, property, base name of React, use contacts. The above error occurred in link component. Okay, so I'm trying to utilize link outside of a router, so it's freaking out. It's saying, hey, I'm not inside of a React router provider, so I'm not supposed to be working correctly. So I'm going to throw an error. So let's fix that. Let's go into our router and add our routes. So here I'm going to import create browser router. I know I'm also going to need my pages. So I need to import app. I need to import the home page. I need to import the characters page. Oh, which is now populating for some reason. This is going to be from pages, characters page. And let me actually take a look at why that's not populating. We definitely have it. Huh. I wonder why it was causing that misbehavior, but it's okay. All right, and then let's get our about page here, which is also not populating. Pages and about page. All right. So there we have all of our import statements that we need to actually create this router. And I'm going to have a const router that is going to be created. This is going to be set to the return value of create browser router, which takes in an array of objects. The path that I will be referencing to here will be my index, and the element that I want to render will be my application. I will then have some children. These children will be of index, which will be set to true. I will then have, what are you complaining about? Let's see. Oh, that's what you're complaining about. All right, I will then have an element that will be my home page. And then I'll move on to another page here, which in this case will have the path of characters. And we'll have the element of the characters page. And moving on to our final, which is path of about, that will have an element of about page. All right, so all of this is created. I have my router. I can now export said router. That's going into export default router. I can go into main.jsx and import React. Nope, I believe it's router provider. There you go. Yeah. All right, so now I can call the router provider and here specify that the router that I want to utilize is the router that I have just created. I will then close my tag and there it is. Now I get my nav bar showing up. Great. And finally, within app.jsx, I need a way to connect all of my children. So in app.jsx, I just need to simply add my outlet, which will be inside of my main container there. All right, so now we have our good old home. Click on characters. Here's my list of characters. I can click on about to see all of my about page. Great. Now for my list of characters, it seems like there's been a bit of a struggle to connect a list of characters here. So I'm just going to go over to the character page. I'm going to say, hey, I want to get all characters. Here it gives me the API call that I want. I'm going to Command C that. And there is such thing as pagination. We can go over pages and how this works here, but it also gives us a next and a previous. I don't think I could dive too far into that, but maybe if we have enough time, I'll show that. So I'm going to go into the character page. I'm just going to simply make a function here. I'm going to say const get characters. This function will be an asynchronous function. And what it's going to do is it's going to grab all of our characters. So I'm going to say let response be equal to axios, or excuse me, await axios.get. I'm going to paste that URL that was provided for me. And I could actually just grab data from there. And inside of data, I can see that there is this variable named results. Well, I can have a const of characters and set characters, which will be a use state that will be initialized to an empty array. All right, then I can just set characters to this results. So I can say data dot results. Now I need a way to call this function. So I'm going to utilize useEffect to actually call our function. I will get my characters. And I'm going to leave the dependency list empty because I don't need it to show anything. All right. Now, finally, I'm going to go ahead and iterate through all of these and create an image for them. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. Say characters.map. For every character, I want to iterate through it, and I want to return an image tag where the source will be equal to the character dot image. Yes. Image. All right, and that should kill it. We could probably give it a label if we wanted to, if I put it inside of fragment tags. We could maybe add a p tag here and just put character dot name, just that it's visible next to our character here. All right, let's take a look at what our page looks like now. So now I come home, I go over to characters. Looks like I'm getting an error somewhere. So let me go ahead and take a look at the console. Get rid of this. All right. So reference error is Axios is not defined in get characters. Looks like Axios didn't import. So let's import Axios now. All right, now we have another error, but this is just a key error. So let's take a look at what our body looks like. All right, so there we get Rick Sanchez. We have Morty, Summer, and so on. They're all showing up. We're getting all of the characters. Let's do a little quick breakdown of what's happening here. So when I click on home, nothing's going on. That's too crazy. It's just simply rendering JSX. But when I click on characters, what happens is the characters page gets mounted. This characters.map function is triggered. But remember, it's initialized to an empty list, right, or an empty array. So it doesn't return anything. We can't see any images at first. Well, this use effect is happening in the background. Right? So it renders without any content first. After that, it sends a request saying, hey, we need all of the character information. That goes out through Axios. Axios returns this response here inside of the data. So inside of response.data, I utilize object destructuring to just grab the data out of the response. And then I set the characters to data.results. Here is the key for results. So I am setting it to an array of objects. Once that happens, well, the state of characters is updated, which triggers a re-render through the virtual DOM. And the virtual DOM says, hey, I now have information inside of characters, so we need to re-render these images. So it iterates through each independent object with each image source and each character name corresponding to each object. And we could even console.log it if we wanted to. Let's go ahead and utilize a use effect here. And what this will do is it's going to console.log our characters, and it's going to do that every time the value of characters changes. Now, if we inspect it, come over to the console, we refresh it. So our initial value is an empty array. It sends our request, then it starts rendering things. So it gives me a warning saying, hey, you have multiple items being rendered, but you're not utilizing a key. That's okay. I'm not too worried about it for now. And if I open up the objects, I have 20 separate objects for each individual character that is coming back from that API call. And that's how you get the character showing up on the screen. As far as showing up the remaining of them, I'm going to leave that up to you guys, but please pay attention to the fact that you are receiving a next and a previous URL. So you could always just change the where characters are being fetched from, right? You could utilize a different state inside here. And every time that response comes back, you just set the next variable and the previous variable to whatever is coming back inside of that info object. All right. Does anyone have any questions over this project or how I went about doing this? No questions at all? That good?
I have I had one. Where did you declare that you were rendering like the actual images again? Does it just take all the um, info from data and then does it automatically include the images there?
Yeah, so the images are coming back from the API call. When it gives me the results, it gives me the, oh, did I lose where I was? I did lose where I was. Let me get all characters. Here we go. So it comes back in the API call. Here is the object for this character. And I do have the image
Okay.
to render for the character. And I also have the name to render for
Gotcha.
the character.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and as far as where I'm doing it for the code, it's inside this mapping object here.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right, it doesn't seem like there are any other questions. This will be pushed up to demos and notes today as well. But that is it for me. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.